Good evening. It's November 16th. This is the Environmental Advisory Council. And we will start our call to order. Roll call. Cindy Mehallow. Here. Janet Cravanes. Here. Dane Shoemaker. Absent. Joe Pinto.
Here.
Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney. Present. All right, moment of silence. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Item number 4.1, considering approving the agenda. Any other items that needed to be added? I know we did note that the property 311 Sawmill Road does not have the plans on it. So I guess, do we need to make a motion, Steve, to have the agenda? It's already noted. Okay, no worries. All right. Motion to approve the agenda. So moved. So moved. Seconded by Cindy Mehallow. Okay. Motion was made by Janet Cravanes, seconded by Cindy Mehallow to approve the agenda as stated. All right. Item number 5.1, minutes. Considering approving the minutes from our October 19th meeting. I just had a question. Should I abstain from this, Steve? Because I was not here and I don't know if I should be voting on and then verifying the accuracy of the record if I wasn't here.
The guidelines are this. There's actually three ways that you can do. One is you can abstain because there's enough here that you can do that. Even if let's say there wasn't, or you wanted just to vote, if everybody else says it's fine, all you're doing is agreeing that you're accepting the minutes based on everybody else's piece. Or if you've watched the meeting,
yes,
and if you've watched the meeting, then you could vote on it, having watched the meeting, and you know that it accurately represents what happened.
Yes.
So
I did watch the meeting.
But there's no, because particularly in the fact that you could have a quorum change, and like you'll have new members come on, and there could actually be a full quorum change in there. You don't have to be there to do that. You're just accepting the fact that they are accurate and that they are.
Okay, so item 5.1, considering approving the minutes from our October 19th EAC meeting. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Cindy Mehallow, seconded by Joe Pinto to approve our October 19th EAC minutes. Number 6, land to vote. Oh, I'm so sorry.
All in favor?
I was away on holidays, so I might be off from the technical thing. All in favor?
Aye.
And so just to cover ourselves, we did not vote on number 4. So we're gonna all in favor of voting for number 4.1, accepting the agenda?
Aye.
Aye. Right, now we are covered. That's what happens when you go on vacation. You are
I'm
totally
sorry,
off.
who were the motion makers on the last one?
Janet, Cindy Mehallow put forth the motion and Joe Pinto seconded
Okay,
the
that
motion.
was
That was the second. Yeah.
Yep, I had the first one.
one.
Just didn't have
Okay.
it. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Oh, my.
All right, land development review, discussion of possible action regarding the revised development plans for 311 Sawmill Road. And we should just note that the applicant's going before the planning commission on Tuesday, November 21st at 7 p.m. That's usually not their night because of Thanksgiving. They will be meeting on Tuesday. And Steve, are you able to have the plans displayed on the board? If not,
And while you're trying to get the plans up, I have a question about process. Given the fact that the planning board meeting is usually a week away and it's only closer, can we still turn our comment letter in tomorrow if we have one?
Yes, because the Friday is for all meetings, whether it's Monday,
Okay.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Okay,
So, yeah, we
so
could still,
that's my first question. My second question is, did the document we received today was the landscape plan? And I understand, has that also gone to John Hosbach and the shade tree?
My assumption is it will. The Shade Tree Commission doesn't meet until next week. I haven't seen the attachments to the Shade Tree agenda yet, but it would go to them, yes.
So if, and again, before we get into the specifics of these things, I'm thinking about process. Normally, since the landscape plan involves trees, I would think that the EAC and the shade tree would both comment on it and that we would coordinate our comments. But if the shade tree isn't going to be able to see it until after the planning board reviews, then
No,
I
they're
think,
gonna meet prior to the plan.
5 o'clock.
They'll meet, which is their typical thing.
oh, okay. they're
They
moving-
meet at 5
okay,
o'clock and the
okay,
planning
got it.
commission meets at 7.
Got it, okay. And then the other thing is the revised, one of the set of materials that we got the landscape letter today, and like a week ago, we got the letter to the engineer, the revised plans, something from Fish and Wildlife, some things about endangered species. And their engineer responded to our engineer's letter and had a revised plan. In terms of the sequence of events, does our engineer now need to look at those revised plans and make sure that they've done everything they're supposed to do?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay, so we have, and we won't see that, but the planning board will make sure that
I think
happens.
before we dig in, let's go back and look at 311 and
so.
give us
so-
perspective on what they revised.
So when a plan is revised and a letter is revised, the engineer always reviews it again to make sure it's compliant with either what their recommendations were, and then they'll issue a letter. So let's say the engineer issues the letter with 20 items on it. And if they redo the plan and now the engineer comes back and says, I can take off, 10 of those items, his or her letter would only have 10 items on it then, that they still needed to be addressed. If they come back and they just say, we will comply, which sometimes is what they do, then it stays on the engineer's letter until they actually comply. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
but the engineer has not issued his report on the revised plan, correct?
That was my question.
I'm going to say, I'm going to say, I've not seen the engineer's letter yet. I
And neither have
normally
I,
do
yeah.
get to see the engineer's letter, but that doesn't mean it didn't come in today and I haven't seen it.
Okay, all right. So if
Okay,
we could
that
have
was my
that
question.
noted, because as Cindy mentioned, if we want to make additional comments, and if we discuss that tonight, we would have to finalize our discussion vote on it this evening and send in the comments by noon tomorrow. All right, so you want to give a couple of the highlights on the revisions, because I think the best news is they did change the riparian buffer from, originally it was 25 foot and they went to 50 foot. And however, the EAC did ask or recommend 100 foot, so we're grateful to get to 50 because we thought that was
Yeah.
a bare minimum. But we did, recommend 100, so I know basically.
But I think our ordinance only requires 50,
Requires,
so
right.
they met what the
As of
ordinance
today.
requires.
As our ordinance as of today, but
Right.
our new improved ordinance will one day show a thing, but yes, I understand that. So that was a great win for the township in terms of getting them to understand the benefits of having a 50-foot riparian buffer. I also think it was great that they did increase their native plants. And Cindy, do you want to give a couple more comments before I dig into the rest of my?
Yeah, and again, a process question here. Who is going to be preparing the comment letter and who should be taking notes now? Is that something that Joe can do as he's taking the notes, or do we have one of those forms we can fill out?
I think we're gonna have to do the form and.
Okay, do
if
we
he's
have
doing
a
the
copy
notes-
of that form?
Yes.
Do we have one here now?
No, not now. We can take the notes and fill
Okay.
that out.
Okay. Well, several of us may have comments on the landscape plan. you want to go first or you want me?
You go into I thought it was great that he did address the native plants and they did really kind of make it a notion. And I remember too, where we were starting from, this was a huge thing for them to step up. And
There was a lot of information missing.
Right.
There's just things just plain weren't done that it didn't comply with the code.
Okay.
And the tree choice, I think, needs to be reviewed.
Well, don't you think shade tree will weigh in on the trees? I mean, should we let that be a shade tree issue?
I mean, shade tree will do
Yeah.
that. That's their role.
So we can comment on the shrubs and the bushes and things of that nature and the plant and everything in the repairing buffer and everything along the steep slopes. So we'll let the tree focus on the trees and we'll do it on everything else. Is that okay, Janet?
Sure,
Well,
as long as they're being addressed.
I disagree a little bit because I know that that's why I was asking about the coordination between our comments and shade tree. Because there is a lot of overlap.
Right.
Like we were the ones that put forth the native plant and we're very focused on habitat diversity. And that was going to be one of my comments is that, and again, this is subject to what the shade tree does, but my comment would be that in the trees that they've called for, they've got 22 red maples, which are a lovely tree, but that's a little too many red maples. And they have a willow oak, but they don't have any white oaks, which is a keystone species. And they have 16 ginkgos. And I know they don't have to have all native plants, but the fact that they have like no white oaks for species diversity and as it is a keystone species, I think that that is a shame.
And ginkgos support no pollinators.
Yeah.
None, whereas white oaks support 550 species.
So that would be a comment that I would relay to shade tree.
Right. And if you
defer
could
to them.
coordinate with shade tree for that, that would be great. And Janet, if you want to also, because they will put together their letter and you can
Right.
ask specifically. But I guess in terms of, we want to work, stay within what we can in our confines right now,
Yep.
or to kind of let shade tree address the trees and let's work within what we can suggest. So we will, Cindy, if you want to talk with Trish, because their
Mhm.
meeting is Tuesday, make her aware of those concerns because they're all valid. And Janet, as you said, making native and, making pollinators, that would be helpful, but we can only do with what was within
Okay.
our area.
Okay,
Anything else that you have regarding the plan specifically?
yeah. I agree with you that I think it's great that they have two parts of the plan I want to focus on. In the upper right corner, it lists the native planting for riparian buffers. And as I understand it, that's the detail that supports in the lower right-hand corner, number 7, which is where I want to focus. It says all disturbed areas and areas not containing native vegetation within the 50-foot riparian buffer shall be planted with native plants. Because I think it's very important that the integrity of the riparian buffers be maintained.
Yes.
And given the fact of the proximity of those riparian buffers to these homes, I want to, number one, make sure that they are adequately planted with native species, not left bare, not left filled with invasives. And secondly, that there is some mechanism to, and Sheila, you said this, to make sure that the vegetation in that riparian buffer is protected and that the homeowners don't mow it all over and turn it to grass. So I don't know how we can accomplish that.
Well, I guess we're looking at is the plans, if you see where, I mean, at some point on lot number 2, you could see where the back deck is.
It gets
Right.
so close
It's
to the house.
directly to the house. So our concern is, it's great that they're going to be complying with the 50-foot repairing buffer, but our concern is that is as of land development. And if you look on the repairing buffer, there's nothing noted in the plans to be planted in that zone. So our concern is as soon as the property owner,
I think you should make that recommendation and
So-
see what the board takes with it.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
because we also, so we asked for specifically for plantings that will be in that area,
Well,
as well as what guidelines will be to ensure this goes into in perpetuity.
yep, yeah. So those are my concerns. But other than that, they did a nice job. They got a lot of trees in there.
Well, I did have a couple of questions. We did, in our EAC land development forum dated September 22nd, we did ask for a request of a wetland study because the information they were using was based off of old information. And I didn't see that addressed in any of the revised documents. So I would like to just kind of find out what that is. And what we also did is we did bring up the impact for birds, and in terms of EAC recommended the limited use of light in wildlife. I don't know if lighting really isn't in this, but in the landscape plans, are there lighting or will there be lighting in their landscape to find, for the properties and the housing and how that would be brought up? And we did ask that the applicant do everything possible to mitigate stormwater, wildlife and trees. So I do see on this very steep slope, they're only going to be saying they're disturbing 300 square feet. That was before, I think, a little bit more significant, Cindy, so that's a great win. And the other thing we were saying is this might be an opportunity when we were talking about the plastic matting. Maybe because he's going to have to do some erosion, this would be a chance for us to at least
I
request
would
it.
love to specify that.
Yeah, so we could add that. And what we're talking about is for properties developed to have a non-plastic mat and also make that in part of a consideration. Because although we have no ordinance on it, all we are doing is asking for a recommendation.
Request, yeah.
And what else?
So for the landscape plan, we, just to recap, since I guess I'm gonna be the one writing this. Back to what I said is that to make sure that number 7 is fully executed, and then explore a mechanism for that to be in perpetuity or somehow captured in writing and travel with the deed. And then Sheila, you listed a number of requests there or questions.
But
So
that previously,
You had-
I'll put forth the question was previously the EAC had recommended that a wetlands determination be done.
yeah, so
we
let's
don't-
just stop right there. Was it done?
We- I went through the plans. I saw.
I don't know that answer.
I saw, it was noted previously.
Right,
when
I know. So what do we do now?
We asked them again about this
yeah.
issue has still not been addressed. And it may have been addressed in an engineer's report and we just don't have knowledge of it. So it doesn't hurt us to ask, because that's all we're doing. And we did recommend the limited use of light in this area, specifically why we brought that lighting up is this area was noted in the Newtown Township Comprehensive Plan as being an area of critical core habitat of the Pennsylvania Natural Heritage Program. This area can only support limited disturbance without adversely affecting the species of concern identified. So, and they also recommended better management runoff. So that was based on the comprehensive plan.
So if we stop at the lighting,
Again, we don't have the ordinance, all we're asking is recommendations.
right, but
Downward,
okay, but where I'm going with this is, if it was a commercial development, wouldn't they usually show a lighting plan?
But residential
No,
in this
we're
case,
not ever gonna see a plan,
I mean,
so that we could request it,
Yeah.
but we can't expect to ever see any.
Right.
I would expect on
Motion
this
sensors.
particular, that it would be just what somebody does around their home.
Right.
They
But
may
that driveway is, remember, this is a unique driveway. It's coming along here, then it's breaking off. So that's.
No,
a
I know
driveway
what it
that
happens.
eliminates.
My point though is whether they put lighting along the driveway or not, I don't know. I mean, like, there's nothing, I don't think anything in our code says you have to light the driveway.
Yeah.
I don't know that there would be any. I don't think you would see an exterior lighting plan.
Okay.
For this, because it's a residential and it's
Can then
a
we
very
just word it that
small.
we would suggest that they be sensitive to bird, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
We'll repeat the request.
Yeah. In the
Okay.
most thoughtful way, we're not implying that we have the authority to do anything, we're just asking them.
Yeah,
we'll
I
repeat
mean, if
it.
you're saying that, though not required, we would recommend,
Yes.
then I think that's fine.
Okay,
And Cindy, in our September 22nd, we did ask for the recommended cluster planting of native in those areas of steep slopes. Did you really see, I saw them identifying, were those cluster plantings adequately in the steep slope and the very steep slopes? Or did you see that?
this thing is very hard to read.
Yeah, it is.
I don't see the steep slopes indicated in the landscape plan. And it doesn't talk in the landscape notes, there is no specific reference to how they plan to vegetate the steep slopes.
All right.
So we could ask for
Yep.
that to be addressed in the landscape notes. The other thing I noticed is that in the riparian buffer, they have a lot of perennials, a lot of grasses, and a lot of trees. And what I did not see was a lot of the mid-sized bushes. They have some viburnums, but they don't have things like chokeberries and things like that, which are the things that you know, might really take hold in there.
Spice bushes.
Yeah, things like that. So,
The birds need those.
Yes.
Yeah, they land,
Yeah.
that's where they kind of.
Right.
because
I-
I was surprised to see so many trees in here for the riparian buffer, because
Right.
it seems to me that they're hitting the trees in the tree plan. So, but I can
So
make
if it's
note
a
of that.
bush or flowers or plants or grasses, we can address. So, and as
Yep.
you said, you're gonna bring the attention up regarding the trees to shade trees, but that's a good suggestion. And if you look on our September 22nd recommendation, we did ask for 80% of all plantings to be native. Again, we cannot, we're just suggesting and we are encouraging.
Yep.
So that'd be great.
Yep.
But as I said, I am thrilled that at least we're in the right direction. And I do
Yep.
believe the developer, when we spoke with them, he understood that we wanted to work together, and I really appreciate them taking the time to, because this was a unique property, and it's the way, the location of it being in proximity to the watershed and Thomas Run going through. This is a really important property. So that's why I would love us to, especially the plastic matting, because there's two sources of water that are in our watershed. So that would be a great. Okay, so anything else before we put forth the motion?
No.
Okay, a motion was made to have Cindy address a comment letter from the revised plans regarding 3111 Sawmill Road. As noted, Cindy, do you want to specifically bring up the issues that we discussed?
I'll mention the landscape plan, item number 7, that 2 points about that those areas will be vegetated and not contain invasives. And then request or specify that we would like those the native plantings in the riparian areas to be maintained in perpetuity and captured in writing. Number 2, request no
But be
plastic.
captured in writing and to be somehow either noted in the deed or the property, if possible, I don't even know if that's,
Yeah, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
but it be captured, so it's in perpetuity, however
okay.
that is accomplished.
okay,
Number 2, request no plastic matting in their erosion control and other seeding areas.
mhm,
Then repeat the request for an updated wetland study. That was 3. Number 4, reiterate the request about the lighting, bird-friendly lighting, and I could pick up the language from that. And number 5, repeat the request about cluster planting on the steep slopes.
And
And-
more shrubs.
Now, another
Yeah.
thing, in our September 22nd, we did ask them to remove invasive plants and vines from the property and replace them with native plants. Did anyone see in the landscaping plans any notations of removing invasives from the property?
So I did read something.
So I would,
Well, it's kind of indirect. It says all disturbed areas and areas not containing native vegetation. So you could interpret that if the area doesn't contain native vegetation, it includes invasive vegetation, and then it will be planted with native plants. Do you think that's
I think that's a bit of a stretch, because I would say specifically in our
to make it
plan,
more explicit?
yeah, we did specifically ask them to remove invasive plants, and I'll tell you why, because there's 2 water sources going through there. Those invasive plants, if they go to seed, they drop their seed on the ground,
Yep.
goes into the water, and it takes it down the watershed. So if we can
Yep.
ask, all we're doing is asking, and I know some of this might be nitpicking, but it really is. He's in a very unique location, and I think because of their proximity to, I mean, we're touching Darby Creek at that point. So it's, I think we could be really sensitive to that.
Yep.
And all they could do is say no, but it doesn't hurt us to ask.
Okay. So, you had put forth a motion?
I would suggest this, when you put this back together, be really clear on what the expectations are versus what the asks are.
Okay.
And just so that it's, you know. that
What's the
it's-
difference between an ask and an expectation?
Well, an expectation would be something that and I think they've addressed most of your expectations already in that you wanted them to stay out of the 50, you wanted them to stay out of the 50 foot but
Riparian.
easy for some riparian buffer. That's a very high expectation because that's our ordinance. You know,
Right.
we want the ordinance upheld.
Right.
That's that. Versus saying, we would like you to consider removing all the
Yeah.
invasive plants in the area. There's nothing in our ordinance that requires that. So
Exactly.
one is a request.
Yes.
The other is, we want you to hold to the ordinances that the township has set. Does that
Got
make,
Yep.
that's where I see the difference. And the only reason being is, if you're more specific, they're more likely to pay attention and understand what it is that you're asking versus what you're demanding. kind of
And what
thing.
we could note is that, you know, we did ask for 100-foot riparian buffer.
Yeah.
That was what our recommendation, and following through with the township and the comprehensive plan, which is moving in that direction. And Darby Creek is moving in that direction of 100-foot riparian buffer. They're getting off easy with the 50-foot riparian
Yeah.
buffer, in my eyes. So they can work with us because we're working with them.
Got it.
All right, awesome. So the motion was made that Cindy would do a comment letter regarding all the comments that we just discussed. And the motion was put forth by Jana Cabanas and seconded by Joe Pinto. Awesome. All right,
When do we
wonderful.
vote on it now?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed?
Okay.
Janet, you're gonna get a part of my paycheck for tonight because. All right, listen, guys, I want to take a moment because that was a really big win for the EC. You guys, that was really,
It's a win
for the environment.
township.
Yeah.
It's a win for all residents.
It's-
Not a win for us.
But no, what I am seriously concerned about is that water was in our township for a few seconds and it was downstream. So our win is really every person downstream in Darby Creek won on this. So I really appreciate that. Awesome. All right, new business. Discussion and possible action on proposed calendar events for our EAC's 2024 events. All right. So what we're looking to do is really kind of get ahead of ourselves so that we would know 2024, where we're going, what we have planned, what are our normal things. And I do want to give you some calendar dates before we dig into the recommended. And we're going to have this in writing, so don't worry, this will be first EAC Regional Conference will be Saturday, February 24th. So just note that for your calendars, and that will be in it. We will be collecting these dates and putting them forth in our December meeting. And other dates I wanted you to be aware of is that Earth Day will be Monday, April 22nd. Arbor Day will be Friday, April 26th. So we're just going to coordinate with around PHS and their program. And I'm gonna let you go into your Burtown. One thing we also need to be aware of, in between Earth Day and Arbor Day is Primary Day, and it's also Passover. So just so that we're aware of that. And let me see, going into this. So I will collect these dates from everyone. We're going to go into any other possible dates that we don't have mentioned, but Cindy, do you want to go into the discussion and the possible action on proposed educational events? Or do you want to do Birdtown first, Janet?
Well, I think
They're
they're
combined.
combined here is the proposed educational event. So
Okay, all right, let's do
stick
that.
with that.
All right, and Tim, can you bring that, click on that agenda item because that should be all in there. Perfect. All right, Cindy. Yeah.
It's just there.
So we're gonna just do a brief overview and we'll have all
Yeah.
these dates.
So a bit of background on this is, I know that one of our mandates as an EAC is to do public education. And I know one of the goals that we discussed at a previous EAC meeting is to do public education. And that doesn't happen unless you plan it far in advance. You get the dates on the calendar, you line up partners, you get rooms at the township building. So Janet and I kind of brainstormed a number of meeting ideas that would align with current issues that
EAC is already addressing. We thought about partners that we could work with to help share the work and get more publicity and get more attendance. And we also contacted, I forget if I talked to Suzanne or Jamie or Rose, somebody here, about meeting room availability, because that's tough. And I believe she said, she gave me a window. She said, generally, I think it is the first and the fourth Wednesdays are generally open. So I said, okay. So then we also looked at seasonality of like if you're going to do a bird walk, are you going to do it during spring migration, fall migration? If you're going to talk about recent, leaf, you do it in the fall. So, and then we kind of mapped these out over the year and came up with possible partners and themes, trying to make them appealing to residents. This is better, but if you could go up one notch bigger. Is this one of the events on there or?
Yes,
Yeah, I'm saying if you could make it bigger.
Yeah, make it bigger. So just go, it was the three dots.
There,
there you go.
There you go.
very good,
They'll
good,
print
good.
it out.
That's great, thank you.
Right. Yes, but also I want to discuss funding.
Okay, but is it one of the things on here or is it?
No, it's one of those things.
Okay.
So I think
Okay.
what we can do
Okay.
is just do a high level, because we're not
Yeah.
gonna vote on each individual
No,
subject. Yeah,
no. So what I'd like to do is just, this is like a first pass.
Yes.
And to show you the general ideas, the partners that we're thinking of, the general direction. And if the EAC can say, yes, we think in general, this is pretty good. And we switch out a couple topics, then we'll
Or if
have
they
like,
want, if somebody wants to add something
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
thought of.
yeah,
Right,
if
right.
we're missing a topic that we
Sure.
think, and then we'll go away and refine this and try to nail it down.
the only thing would be great is if we could at least solidify January's events, because before you know it,
Yeah.
we're gonna be on top of that. So if we can maybe even walk out of here tonight with some type of agreement on January, that might be helpful to you, because you already have something pinned on the 24th, right?
24th of,
You've got a bird safe class on the 24th January, sorted.
where is that?
That's in the notes.
You're looking at the dates a lot more closely than we are.
Oh.
We looked at them, but I said, we're putting them out here.
Okay,
So yes, the first event, we were thinking late in January to get past the new
Right.
year and give people time to get organized. And Janet had.
So I work with Phil Whitmer, who is vice chair of Birdtown VA. And he also teaches a course on Mainline Night School. And he's agreed to give us his understanding of actions that homeowners can take. I think probably we need to refine with Phil exactly what the focus would be, because there's a lot of things here that
yes,
I think could be broken into more than one of it. When it comes to the bird strikes with window glass and lighting, it's kind of one take, whereas what you could do in your backyard.
Well, I did narrow it down.
Okay.
This is not as broad as it was the first time.
All right, it looks to be broad, but anyway, since Phil is also with the Ornithological Society. He's led a couple of our bird walks here in Newtown Square, so
great.
he'll be a great one for doing that.
Do you want to go just top level on some of the other?
Yeah,
Discussions.
so like you said, maybe we could like approve this one specifically. But then another one is bird oriented, and this is about shade grown coffee. You want to talk about that?
Shade Grown Coffee, if you've been out to Willistown Conservation Trust during one of their bird bandings, Willistown is now partnering with Griffith Coffee Company to do shade grown coffee and to get that message out of the importance. And because we have all of these birds that are migrating through our area here, we're on an important bird location to be able to bring home what is happening with these birds when they go down to South America, where a lot of their habitat has been stripped out in order to have coffee plants that are not under shade, under natural habitat. So this kind of links Central America too.
Well, and
What we're
it,
doing.
yeah, and it links migration, where we're talking about birds, the birds that migrate through here. You know, you might not think, you know, it's not just about coffee.
Okay.
But that's like a
Right.
fun way to link it in, and we might have a coffee tasting.
Right.
And the Town Conservation Trust works with a brewmaster in Wayne. And so it
Right.
could be a fun thing, and that could be kind of the hook.
So, yeah, I think we're looking for a hook for each of these.
Yeah.
Yes.
But we haven't
Yeah.
found them yet, but we're
Yeah.
still.
I read everything and it's really great because what I loved was just making sure that we have a variety of days. So although you might be hitting Wednesdays, maybe a Monday or a Tuesday because you get different people with different schedules. So that's important too, that we provide a variety for the residents. And I love what we could do is kind of sketch it out over the year and kind of come back in December with a rough plan of everything. But I really would love to have January sorted because, as
Yeah,
I said,
yeah.
coming in, but you want to talk with Phil and get him
I'll
locked in?
talk with Bill. right.
Okay, so if we can get some in, Cindy, you want to go through the next few,
Yeah,
just to get an idea?
Yeah, and we'll keep going. And then can you scroll the screen, please? Other way. So that was February. Then, March, you know, World Water Day is in March, so we thought we would do something rain oriented. And we could give tours of the rain gardens and talk about, you know, did you do, you know, why you might be able to do a rain garden in your own yard. So that would be the rain gardens. And then the next month, keep scrolling, please, native plants. That would be April, and here we're into, this is a busy month, you know, as you said, there's Earth Day, there's Arbor Day.
Passover is that week and election
Yeah.
day.
So that's why we thought we might do that very early in the month.
Okay,
And
just
we
have to watch Easter then, that's April, yeah. Just watch Easter and if we can, again, make sure we have a variety of times and a variety of dates so that we get
well, but
different,
see, we don't always have variety of dates. That's the problem.
right,
It's very limited because of all the township meetings we have and the library using it, and already there's like, you're probably, I think Cindy commented it like,
Tuesday and Thursdays are
Two-
done.
well, Wednesday, it was like, I think you had 2 Wednesdays a month that
Yeah.
you could even do it.
Yes.
I mean, it's a challenge for me to even find meeting
Space.
nights for us to do other meetings because we're
Could we
so full.
look at places outside of the township?
Well, yeah, I think we could, for example.
And you mean the township building?
Out of the township building, we could perhaps look at, like, for the shade grown coffee thing. Maybe Willistown, if they're a partner on the event, would be willing to host it at Rushton Farms.
Right.
You know, which is not that far away. It's a lovely building. So something like that. So yeah, and you'll see there are a couple where I've tried to think of other days of the week.
Okay, great.
Then keep going.
So native plant, there, Pennsylvania has a native plant, or a native species day, and that comes in May. So I've been in conversation with this Historical Society with Kathy Cavalier
Okay,
about perhaps having that as a joint day where we could do a plant swap. We did it last year.
which
And
was
then-
fabulous. It was a
And then
fabulous.
also the giveaway for plants. And the reason I put this down here as an independent issue is that if we give plants away, how do we pay for these plants?
Yes.
Through the EAC in some way, because I don't know whether that's part of our budget, probably not.
Because a lot of times when we go into a budget, we need to have that locked in, you know, in May or June.
Yep.
For the things, but the answer is not no. The answer is we will see what we can do in terms of options, but
Right.
everything's open.
I don't know, I mean.
She's talking like $150.
I think you had some dollars given for giveaways.
Yep.
And that's maybe someplace where you would look
Okay.
at this as an opportunity to
Yes,
do that.
we did have community outreach and we had events kind of plugged in there, so
Right.
that's where we would look at into those. And actually, we got $150, Cindy got a scholarship this year for attending one of her classes, so there's $150 left over our 2023 budget.
Doesn't carry over.
No, we could buy the plants now and just receive them. And
Can't
listen,
do that either.
Okay,
why not?
well,
You can't do that. Yeah, I mean, I have to match the expenditure with the time in which we get the product.
Well, there
Well,
are,
we will be buying, no, I'm joking. There's always a way, don't you worry.
there are organizations such as, I keep coming back to the DCCD mini
Yeah.
grants.
Right,
Where
there-
the Historical Society could apply
Yes.
for, and they're
right.
under $500. And I think places like the Hardy Plant Society.
Yes.
You know, give out little grants
And
like
like
this.
you said,
And-
Cindy, why it was important, Janet, with the plant giveaway, you were able to engage with so many people and giving 2 or 3 little plug plants was a
right.
really important thing because you started new behavior with all these gardens. So that's really important. All right, the next one is a discussion, and these are all just tentative. These
Oh,
are,
so go back up. We missed the composting. We want to have something on composting, maybe someone from Mother Compost. I
Yeah.
discovered that my neighbor is a part-time employee of the PRC and she gives composting workshops. So,
oh, that's fabulous.
yes, so maybe
Fabulous.
somebody like her. And again,
And the
now
township
that
is making some direction in that as well. So they're making some really good movement in that.
the township is.
Our township?
Yep, our township is
Oh, tell
phenomenal.
me.
Oh, no, not yet.
I've been talking with
All good
George
stuff.
about.
It's all coming next year. Wait, it's,
Uh,
wait
so-
and see.
So
Wait,
that's
I wanna be
something
part of that discussion.
where
You
I have it as Wednesday evening, but perhaps that's a Saturday morning. And perhaps
Right.
it's like over at the Public Works Building, or perhaps it's at
The library porch or things.
the
like that.
library porch or at Drexel Lodge Park, something like that.
Awesome.
But I want to try to get as many rooms reserved.
Okay,
you
okay.
know. And then you want to
Mosquito-
talk about the mosquito
Mosquitoes,
friendly?
right, June 5th.
Yes, so after Linda.
Right.
Olson came here to talk about the mosquito problem with the
The spraying.
the
of it.
spray, right, which is non-specific and kills all other organisms. So this is the message that needs to come out, and at the We Could Serve PA a workshop or a conference that was earlier in the month or last month. I did speak with Linda. She says she's swamped, but Marion, who is in charge
Yes.
of Transition Town, is willing to do a workshop for Birdtown. So it would be great if we could get her to do an in-person one here, because the Birdtown one is always a Zoom. So that we can record it and have that information available too.
And even with that, maybe we could buy, the little mosquito dunks,
Yes. the
give them
dogs.
as giveaway and, individuals for
Right.
those individuals who maybe can attend. But then we could also work with the library and having some giveaways there to make aware, because all of us working together is really important. All right,
Right,
so that's June, and where are we at now?
This again is Phil, you have him listed here, for what to put in your backyard. There's so many resources. We just need to get out the message that how important it is to support pollinators and not just pretty plants.
All right, perfect.
Okay. Next one.
July and August, no event. Woo-hoo. A month off, okay?
Everyone's at the beach.
Okay.
Okay, so then this is an idea I stole from
Marple.
Yeah, because they do the Ask an Arborist. And this I thought would be perfect to
Yes.
sponsor with Shade Tree,
Yes, I was gonna
that
just
that
make
type
sure.
of thing.
Yeah,
A
we
lot
could work
of
with them.
directions.
Perfect.
We can go with that one. That would be sometime in
Can we
September.
get Rick Ray to come and
I don't know.
If
I'd
you
have
can,
them
just
talk.
make sure that Shade Tree's taking the lead and we're supporting that, on that initiative,
Okay.
so we
Okay.
don't offend anyone and stay within our lane. Yep.
And then wildlife friendly fall garden cleanup. Basically leave the leaves.
Yes.
And try to do that in early to mid-October. Hit people right before they start raking their leaves.
For
Yeah.
sure, right. I've just learned recently that blowing or raking your leaves is not really good either. So you should leave as much as you can on your and then those areas, that grassy area that you want to maintain, make it smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
But
And you
there's a
can
lot of
mulch.
overwintering organisms
Yes.
that are falling out of the leaves now and will stay there through the winter. on your ground. And so I'm experimenting with my backyard
Okay.
for this winter. I'm leaving those leaves.
All right.
Okay, and then bird walk in the fall, sometime in the fall, right? And probably in the spring. You usually do two bird
Yes,
walks.
right, yes.
Then that was the native
Oh,
plant
and
giveaway
Giveaway, okay.
that kind of got out of order there.
I think we have more than we need.
Right,
on this
but
list,
great,
and we
because
can
this is,
move
we
them.
really needed just to kind of get an idea of where we were going with the year, make sure we have some framework. I definitely want to, as you said, these are all phenomenal, and we're gonna work. Not even mentioned in that is, coordinating with Shade Tree about Arbor Day, the actual plantings.
Yeah,
We
we
did-
didn't even try to attempt the
Yeah.
things that already happened.
Right, so these are awesome ideas, love it, love it. We also want to add to that, the idea of the EAC Sustainable Newtown Square event, which would be a business coordinated event, and our goal would be to bring business leaders together to share best practices. And this would be something we have it in our budget, and it's something we would really want to encourage and support. Not only do we bring attention to the businesses who are doing the right things, we could even encourage maybe them to kind of even host it, because I know,
Yeah, hosted at
at their-
Alpha Athletic Center or
Yeah,
something,
some other-
somewhere else,
right.
not here.
And
maybe a lunch.
I actually have another place in mind, which I've already kind of got a tentative approval for, but it's all good stuff. But it would be something that we would do, so that would be, again, thinking forward as to what our year's gonna look like, so we're not always reactive. I'd rather be proactive and getting our understanding. But as long as you can get in your own calendars, the regional EAC event, that's gonna be from 9 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. And the good news is, guys, is this February is gonna be virtual, so we can do it. And what I will be doing is asking you in December who's planning to attend, because I can get a discount if we apply early. So if that's possible, that'll be great.
What's the name?
That'll be Saturday, February 24th from 9 to 4:30. You get lunch in your own home, but you get a lunch break. Aren't you lucky? All right, so that's it. Fabulous, Janet and Cindy, that's fabulous. Those events will be great. Janet, if you can get everything knocked down, firmed up for January,
Okay,
and that way we
Phil,
can,
right.
yep, we can, because I'd love, as soon as you got it verified, we can, do we need to take a motion to verify? Why don't we just, as
You
ourselves,
know what? For
we'll
the-
empower
for the-
you to do it.
For the January one of the things that we don't have on this list is the bird count,
Oh, yes,
right, and that's in February over President's Day.
Okay,
So
cool.
if we could, and he's given us a talk here
great.
in Newtown Square on the bird count. So I think that would,
Can you go all the way back to January?
Yeah, that's the January
So I
24th
guess
date.
I was thinking he could talk about that.
okay,
Back all the
So what we
way.
could do, Janet, is make a motion to encourage, allow you to pursue, creating an event in January for,
Yeah,
a
we
bird
can
count,
add that in there.
okay,
and we can make a
Sure.
motion that would allow you, although we don't have the date set, you're still firming everything up. At
Right.
least that way, we don't have to bring it up in our
Right.
December meeting.
Okay.
And as soon as you get everything, we can then start, sharing this information.
okay.
So a motion was made by Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney to have Janet Acrobata's work out, setting up a bird, what do we call, a bird safe class in either January or February. And it will be all particulars in coordinating with Birdtown and the EAC. The motion was seconded by
Cindy, Joe.
Joe Pinto, seconded that one. All right. Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Woo, I remembered to vote that time. Woo, good stuff. All right, guys, that is great on the bird discussion and the educational events. And again, from all of our events, these are fabulous. So let's build upon them. And I love anything else we can do. That's great. One thing we do want to mention, it's under new business, and this is the EAC monthly content for Township e-magazine. We really need a point person here. We're going to have to submit monthly information. And as you know, the township has done an environmental win. They're going to have one more regular magazine, and everything else is going to be starting this month will be an e-magazine.
Is it switching that quickly?
Oh,
So you probably will be getting the hard copy,
in
piece
January
your-
30th.
in your mail, like within the next day. It may have already arrived.
Oh,
even
yes,
today.
oh, yes.
And then, we're starting with, we're test piloting the e-magazine or
Mhm.
e-magazine or whatever we're calling it.
Which goes out tomorrow.
To, is it tomorrow?
Yep, it was, the due date was November 13th and the execution date is November 17th.
Okay, some reason I was thinking it was Monday of next week, but anyway, I know that it's gonna be coming out to those who are interested. And then,
But only
What-
those who signed up on, and that's his encouragement, asking all the residents to go onto the township website to sign up for the e-magazine. letter.
and so what we're going to do now that we've kind of made the decision, I'm going to send out a couple different postcards with QR codes on them so people can just use their phones or whatever and go right and get to the sign up so that they can get the sign up. And then it will also be on the website,
All right.
and we'll put it out on our social media as well.
Okay, but my question was, how many more print magazines will there be?
I think to the one that went
That
out
was-
this
No.
time was,
December 12th is our next deadline and it's gonna, the last magazine tentatively is January 30th. Suzanne just sent out an email today.
did she confirm that?
Yeah.
I-
So the
was the
deadline, so
question.
this is one
So
of my,
I just want to know how many, 1, 2,
from what I understand.
Well, there's one that
there's
came
one
in your
more
mailbox
to
now,
right?
Yeah.
and then there'll be one more.
January
Okay.
30th.
Okay,
So the question is, we need two different things. We need content. This will be for the magazine. This will be due by December 12th. Content for a magazine that will drop January 30th. And we want the subject to be something relative to a late January, February thing. I was thinking it would be great to do a plan your garden, because usually January and February is when everyone's looking to get out there. And it would be a great opportunity to kind of take how to plan your garden and then focus on native plants and things of that nature. Or anyone else have an idea, Janet? You have anything for it?
I wasn't thinking
Okay,
that far.
well, we have a December 12th deadline for that. That would be the last magazine which will drop on January 30th. In the meantime, now, every month, we're gonna have to create content. So December, we're gonna also have to have content for the monthly e-magazine that will be going out. And they're gonna want us to have at least, solid information, but the question is how do we deliver the information, who's receiving the information, and do we want to give it high level or, because everyone's different in terms how they approach it. We have to be engaging, we have to be brief, we have to be thoughtful in terms of making people aware of what they're doing and how they can impact their environment. So anyone wanting to really be the point person on gathering all this information, because this is really, an important job of the EAC in terms of how we communicate with residents, whether it be at tables or in person. Crickets?
No, I can't do it. I'm heading into my busy period.
I know.
I can't write anything for the
Okay.
12th.
Okay.
I can't take it on.
Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
But Sheila, I think the
Yeah.
important thing for this electronic newsletter would be to know exactly how many articles and what's your word count.
It'll be every month.
Now, I know it's every
Oh.
month, but I'm saying how many articles per month? Because this month you and I each wrote an article.
Right.
I need to know, anybody who's writing
Right.
needs a word count.
Okay, and we'll see.
And
the
I'm
full-
sure that whoever from Dandelion Video or whoever media can. She's
With
any kind of
photos
editor.
and
If she's
graphics.
any kind of editor, she knows what space she's allocated and she can give us a word count.
And I think what's great is they did give us a sample copy, and it was discussed at the supervisors meeting. So what's great about it being an e-magazine, they would want us to submit something every month in some
So
way.
that's also true for Parks and Rec.
Yep. And remember too,
Historical
it's gonna have to be, the resident is going to have to open the link and then engage. So this week, we'll see the first format, how this goes. And what's also wonderful is because it's month, we'll be able to get information and disseminate information quicker. So there's two different things I'm looking for is December 12th, I will do the December 12th deadline. But what I'm saying is going forward, we're gonna really need a point person and we will get clarity, as you said, Cindy, what our scope will be, how much room space we'll have. Will they only be looking for one time? But if they're gonna give us a platform, I'd love to be able to provide them with content. So one page width would be kind of something I would say we would, remember how with the magazines that we basically did? And we usually gave 2 articles, and we give some graphics. Right now, we're going to put in the, I'll bring it up later about the library program that we're working on, but we will, we'll deliver the December 12th information, but I would love somebody to consider going forward on the e-magazine. All right,
So there's a possibility that we could try to coordinate with the e-magazine with the events that we're
yes,
trying.
Yeah, if we know what day of the month
Right.
they release the e-newsletter, then we can use that to promote the next month's event. I think that's a very good idea to coordinate maybe the topic of what's in
Right.
the e-newsletter with the topic of the event that's coming out, because then you reinforce that.
great. And I think what's nice is having the e-letter is a way to get into residents' homes quickly. Because before, right now, like, here we are gonna have to think about writing an article December that's not gonna hit till January 30th, and it's not gonna be open till really February, so that'll be wonderful. All right. Item number 7.2. This is a great news story. All right. DCVA Quarter Magazine spotlights Newtown Township environmental accomplishments. The association highlighted our township in their magazine. And Tim, can you bring that up? This was a great news story. Cindy, you want to talk about it?
Congratulations.
Fabulous.
Well, the DCVA,
Let them bring it up so we can say, and,
Yeah.
and.
but I can give some background. Just click that link, yeah. DCVA has this quarterly publication. I think they must have a new editor. But she just reached out and asked if we could write something about the steps the township is taking to better control stormwater. So I wrote an article, I sent her pictures, and we got top billing there.
Top billing.
So that's a picture of the township building there. I think
Tim,
right
if you could
there.
Go down to see that, you're gonna see some of the staff.
Yeah, and then you go to the next. Yeah, the front page was just kind of the opening to the whole newsletter, but then this is our article.
On the staff, and then below that is some of the
Yeah,
plantings.
so we
there.
got like page 2 and page
Page
3. We got like 4 photos.
Fabulous.
We got fabulous coverage.
All right,
Yes.
so what I will do is make sure that Suzanne gets it so it can be shared out on the township things, but we wanted to make sure it would be addressed here. Cindy, kudos. I think it was a great article. It highlights so many of the things. Steve, do you have any comments on that? It was awesome,
It was a great article and it was
well received.
well received, so that's really good.
Perfect.
And Birdtown was the next article, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
Go down.
Let's see.
yes, keep
There
it going.
we go.
Right.
Bird
From
Town.
Heidi,
See?
yeah.
Yes. Heidi.
Another win for Newtown Township, Birdtown, and Janet being instrumental in Birdtown. That's awesome. So we'll highlight, what we'll do, Janet, is we'll highlight the Newtown one time and then we'll hit Birdtown the other. Okay. Share info with G. All right, perfect. Well done, everyone. That's awesome. All right, here we go. Old business 8.1, review, discussion, and possible action on the riparian buffer draft ordinance submitted by the township solicitor for consideration of the board of supervisors. So I was greatly concerned when I read this draft ordinance, and I kind of understood that we were going to be looking at following the recommendations from the supervisors, that we look at the comprehensive plan, which was calling for the riparian buffers, the wetlands, and the floodplain. So
Can I jump in here? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I had a conversation with Andy about this at the party this week.
yeah, I had him up against the wall that he.
Yeah, and he explained what happened
Yes.
is that the solicitor had on his list to work on revising the riparian buffer to the wider limits as specified in the comprehensive plan. But then due to a communication error, it was really nobody's fault. Somehow the solicitor ended up focusing on floodplain, which was, have you heard the story
I'm
about?
not,
Okay, so what happened?
Miscommunication.
What happened is Andy and the solicitor were in a meeting about something totally unrelated. And at the end of the meeting, the solicitor said, hey, send me that thing on floodplain again.
Yes,
And Andy thought,
yes, for floodplain.
floodplain. Okay, I'll send him a thing on floodplain. So he sent him the thing on floodplain, and the solicitor went down the floodplain alley instead of riparian buffer.
okay,
And the
So-
wetlands, right.
So nothing has happened on riparian buffer. But in speaking with Andy, I was saying, I think this could be really simple. And I'm oversimplifying, but we just want to change 25 and 50 to 50 and 100. I don't think that ordinance has to be rewritten. I don't think it has to be restructured.
But we did know, because we did ask specifically that the wetland studies be valid only and follow best management practices.
Okay, but again, do you have to rewrite the entire ordinance?
Yes, because Andy had some issues in his codes. Remember when he was looking at, and he looked at all of our codes and he was doing a full code revisions. So I think there was more to it than just what we were asking, and we were asking for one element and they were looking to enhance their code. So I think there's more to it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I mean, what we were asking for them is while you're looking at this, can you do this, this and this? So that's why, from what I understand, they need to go back and.
Yeah, I think there was some things that
Yeah.
Andy found were
Okay.
contradicting in the two. One of the challenges is within the riparian buffer side and the wetlands, it's pretty straightforward for what it says, but then you go look at another section under land development or another section under another area, and it's not consistent.
Yes.
And that's what he was trying to make sure he was doing, was making, which
Cool.
sounds like it shouldn't be a big deal, but it ends up
Okay.
being, you have to look at 4 or 5
Okay.
different areas of
I
the code
understand.
to make sure that's right. But I will follow back up with Rich and say, the focus is really on these two issues. The,
Three from
Move-
us. From us, it's the three things. We asked for the riparian buffers. We asked for the wetlands studies, which was
yeah,
part of comprehension.
But
And
the
in
wetland
addition-
studies have to be done within 5 years.
That
right?
was a third thing that.
Oh, the third
yeah.
thing, okay.
The two of the things we were taking direction from the Newtown Township Comprehensive Plan. We were asking them to act on the recommendations of the comprehensive plan. And the third thing was the EAC asked them to recommend that we follow best management practices and that wetland studies be valid, only considered valid for 5 years. And that was because we had a situation where we had a 30-year-old wetland study and the individual was trying to think that that was.
what were the other two things then?
What
I
was
thought
the
it was,
second one? The
Um,
first one was the width of the riparian buffers.
yeah,
What
We
was-
took the exact wording from the comprehensive plan.
Oh,
I think
okay.
it was Page 194 or 196. And this was from the 2015 comprehensive.
no, I know what
plan.
you.
Yeah. in there because
It was just the two things out of there. Okay.
Yeah. It was basically, we're encouraging you to follow through and act on the comprehensive plan's recommendations too, and it was the 100-foot. And there was something else, they're strengthening the wetlands. Or if it was specifically for floodplains.
But one of the other things that Andy and I talked about, which he suggested and I thought was a good idea, was that when we have things like this coming up, that it might facilitate communication and efficiency if we had perhaps a meeting where we had Andy, the solicitor, and us together and just kind of set a vision for what we're trying to accomplish. And I know we've tried to do that we were instructed to put together these issue briefs.
Right.
But still, things can always get lost in the translation.
I agree.
So, and I think we feel disconnected from the process. We feel like we send these issue briefs off, like with the meadow and the weed
spring.
ordinance, we send it off and we have no idea what's happening. And the solicitor's time is very valuable.
And expensive.
And that's what I mean, very valuable, expensive. And that type of ordinance, being new especially, might take some time to develop, and it would be a shame if he invested a lot of time in it and came back and if it was really
Well,
kind
I
of missed
think
the
what we
mark.
could do is take that
So-
back to the board of supervisors, because the board of supervisors are really the only one that would deal
Right,
with
but
the.
and Andy said that's the place to start.
Yes,
Is we get a green light from the Board of Supervisors.
yes.
I thought we had a green light from the Board of Supervisors for the meadow weed
No,
ordinance.
they are open to discussion. They have never fully agreed to anything. We've never put a full presentation to them. We're waiting for everything to go through. So they're,
So then why are we waiting? with
because
this at the
they're
solicitor?
open. The idea is, this is an ordinance that's important. There's no board of supervisors that have voted on this as yet. This is not something they voted on. We're having the discussion. They're interested in hearing more. They want to know what this looks like. There's concern because neighbors And, so they're not 100% on anything
So
yet.
when has that discussion
But
come up
I
with the
think-
Board of Supervisors?
I think what they've done is taken input from what the letters
From
are
who?
saying, from the surveys, the information that was gathered by the input that was gathered from the
No, but-
intern. And I think they're looking at to saying, how does this work and how does this play out? Anything else that you can add to
Well,
that?
I
Chief?
agree with you that it has to start with the Board of Supervisors, but I didn't know this had been put before them.
I'm saying
The concept was
Concept.
before then, and they said, yes, we would be interested in looking at a rewrite.
Right.
And so the
So that has
engineer,
happened. Step
the
one, the green light.
the solicitor has been given the green light to go pull together some information to take back to them to get, I'm gonna call it a draft type of ordinance
Yes.
kind of thing to say, is this what you're interested in?
Is this hitting?
And then
the
it will come
targets?
back to you for review. and
Opinion
then-
I did.
Okay, but what I'm saying is. So it is with the solicitor, and so the board did give a green light to the concept. of a weed
The
meadow.
board authorized the solicitor to spend
Yes.
time on it.
Yes, to
That's
look
what
for
they
it,
did.
yes.
That's what I'm saying. He gave a green light to the solicitor to spend time on it. And it's with the solicitor who's putting something together. And I'm just saying. We put a lot of time and effort into that. We have some definite ideas. And I feel really disconnected that he's coming up with something and he's gonna go back to the
And has he
board.
Well,
looked
he's-
at what we
he-
did?
Something.
what you gave us ideas
Yeah,
Yes.
were sent to him
Yes.
as part of what he's doing.
yes.
All right.
And he is going to look at it. He's
Yes,
going to
yes.
look at it against second-class township code. He's going to look at it
Yes.
against other ordinances. And he's going to come back and say, this is what I think we can do, taking what your information
I
is
understand
and
that.
applying that.
I got
Yeah.
that, but what I'm saying is, then before he takes that to the board, can we see it? Can we see what he's come up with?
Well, typically what happens is it wouldn't be something he takes to the board for board approval. He would
Right.
take to the board and say, he would send it to the board and say, is this at least the direction that you are all willing to go? And if it is a direction we're willing to go, then it will come back to you. And it will come back to you as the EAC. You will review it, you will make comment on it. Then that will be what goes before the board then for approval
Edited version.
at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Okay.
not how I would like it to happen, but I'm just wondering, why can't the EAC see it before it goes to the board?
I mean, you could, but I think but here's the key. If the board, if he puts something together and the board says, we're not passing this.
Right.
We're not even gonna look at it.
Well, see, that's what I'm worried, is I don't know what he's gonna propose to them. He might have
Right.
misinterpreted what we're trying to put forth, and then he runs it up the flagpole with the board, and they don't like it, and then we look at it and say, well, that's not something that we would have proposed.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is,
Because then
all of that,
we've shot ourselves in the foot, and the board is like
but if
not
that were
liking
to
it.
happen, that would go on the agenda for the
I
supervisors. and we
can
would be
talk
able
to the
use it.
board and I
Yeah.
can talk to
Right.
the solicitor and we can look at the process.
Right.
But
Okay.
typically, the
I know they
remember
have to approve it. The board has
no,
to
I
approve it.
understand, but typically if the board isn't even willing to consider it, we don't want to spend, I don't want to send something here
Yes.
that the board isn't even going to consider.
Exactly.
That's my point.
But we sent it to you.
But
and
they-
you
Right,
did.
you've already,
I don't
that's my
care
whole
about
point.
that.
You've
Janet,
already
that
sent
we have-
something.
And they've received it.
and they're
working
trying
on
to-
it.
he's trying to
I'll
put
See
it,
what he comes back with before.
We
Well, what we
will,
can do
after the
is-
board decides
they-
if they
before
like
it
it or
goes
not.
And remember too, like the
Okay.
supervisor, it's
I
all.
will cease and desist. It's
Yeah.
not happening.
No,
whatever.
no, it's saying it's a work in progress.
no, but I hear what you're saying and I'll talk to them and I mean, there's no reason why you can't at least be seeing it at the same time the board sees it. So,
And it would be because it would that point be a public document that would be on the agenda that we would all be able to see. So I don't think
And
it's.
would we be able to present it to the board? Who presents it to the board?
Well, it's not our work. I'm sure the solicitor would present it.
But you guys gotta remember too, that there's other issues that we might not be aware of. Let's say there's residents who the township might be dealing with issues of properties that are quote neglected now. So that's why I'm saying we would see it after they have seen it. and
but
we
your
would get-
concepts that you submitted,
Steve, I don't even remember what we submitted.
Yeah,
so
well, I
long
have it,
ago.
I have
It was in
but-
April,
know,
yeah,
yeah.
it was
But your
fabulous.
concepts were shown to the board and saying, this is what you're
Yes.
interested in. and they said, okay,
Okay.
go
We'll have a
look at
further
this
discussion.
against second-class township
Yeah.
code, go look at this against, whatever that would have to fit in, and how does it fit? The one thing that I do think the board said, there was some question of whether they wanted it to be front yard. And so that is the one thing that's under review, that may be allowed in second-class township, but may not be something that they're ready to say that we're ready to allow across the township.
And we're making the right steps in the right direction. So we're gonna take baby steps and be appreciative because we're growing in the right direction. So it's all good stuff. All right, so on item number 8.1, we then will say that we don't need to review this because we will wait till the documents put together with all those elements. So that way we become the review. And again, it's probably easier for the township to have one ordinance that addresses those things instead of all that. So item 8.2, this is fantastic. The EAC's Regional Fall Gathering Conference was held on Saturday, October 21st, and Cindy and Janet had attended. Janet, you want to give us your thoughts?
Sure. Well, I have the brochure from the event.
And it was in person?
It was in person and it just came out today from We Could Serve PA.
Perfect.
There were 97 people who attended, 35 EACs,
Wonderful.
separate EACs. And I thought it was really well organized in that they started out with a kind of a lightning round where a number of different EACs presented something that they have done within their township. So those were very short reviews of what's going on and made note of a number of those. And then they moved to roundtables, which were shorter, like 20-minute events, and there were a number of these different roundtables. Then lunch happened, and after lunch there were 2 breakout sessions that were longer, more information presented, a lot more in depth when it came to the topic.
What individual sessions did you attend? Because I had video copies of them all, but which
Yes,
ones?
and they are available for us to be able, since we attended. I mean, I didn't see these on the We Can Serve website,
Right.
but each of us, I think, got
The code.
so that we could download the recording, not necessarily the recording, but the PowerPoint that went along with it. I did one of the breakout sessions that was on looking at what's in the stream of water, and I think you were going to report on that one. And the other one that I attended was something that had to do with tools for municipalities, which was really above my grade. But of the things that I wrote up here, we looked at Native Plant Day from Charleston. And they really involved their students. They had an art contest for kids. They drew native plant species. They also had something for adults, so they named native plant species in different categories, and 2 restaurants in the area gave winners certificates for the winners of that. I also looked at, from the lightning session, Springfield, Montgomery County. We had a energy audit done here in the township. So Springfield, Montgomery County had a practical energy solutions audit done.
We did that 2015 and 16.
Okay.
That was the basis that we used for doing this building.
I thought that maybe so they were able to save $205,000 having instituted what the practical energy solutions recommended, which cost the township $10,000. So that's a really good return.
Yeah,
So we did a lot
I
of
think
things.
I think ours was a little different in that because we did the renovation of the building
Right.
at the same time, it was a little harder to pull all the pieces of exactly what our savings was, but we definitely had a significant savings
Right.
because if you think about what we did, we added the whole upstairs as being conditioned. Right, and then we took what was the Public Works garage area and we made that part of the police department and made that conditioned. And we added the Public Works garage, which is also conditioned. And in doing, because even the floor in the Public Works garage is heated,
Yeah, they have
heated
geothermal.
floor. That's not geothermal,
Okay.
but the building is,
Yes.
that's not.
Right.
And our electric, I think, for the whole year went up less than 10%. And we added way more space than what we did. And we changed over significantly what we did. And our water usage went down probably close to like 800% or something. I mean, it was a huge, because we had a cooler that was actually having a problem. And so we were pumping water into the cooler all the time. Well, by saving that, not only did we save there, but we also saved on our water bill, but we also saved on our sewer bills. And so it was a really big win for the township when we did it. I couldn't give you all the numbers today, but at the time, it was significant savings.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And what year was that?
Well, it was over a 3-year period. We did the
Just generally.
study. We did the study, I think in like 15, early 16. And then we went out to bid to do the remodeling. And that's when we redid this area, redid upstairs, did all the back over, but it took about 1.5 years to
Yeah,
do
and
all
then
the
when did this
construction.
all open up? I'm trying to remember
Oh,
what
God.
year.
I think
2020,
everything was
2020?
opened in either
19.
19 was when the Public Works building, I think, opened up. And then I think the police area finished opening.
It kind of was-
18 is when I think the upstairs opened. Actually, it may have even been the year before, it may have been 17. That the upstairs opened. It was kind of like a 3-phase, it was a multiple phases, so I don't remember exactly.
All right, let me just get back to Cindy. You want to give your update on the regional EAC conference?
I don't know, were you done, Janet?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Okay, it was a very good meeting, met a lot of interesting people, exchanged a lot of ideas. The opening speaker, the welcome, was from Pennsylvania Senator Carolyn Comita, who was the first female mayor of Westchester, and she's minority chair of the Pennsylvania Senate Committee. I was very impressed with her commitment to environmental issues, all the way back from her time in Westchester and now as state senator. And one of the things that hit me on that, and I just made a note to myself, was the importance of, when we're trying to accomplish things on the local level here, of reaching out to regional politicians, whether it's a state senator for our area like Carolyn Comita, or our new representative Lisa Borowski, or Delaware County at the county level, Elaine Paul Schaefer, that these are dynamic people, and a lot of these people in particular care about the environment. And so that depending on the situation or the issue, just to remember that they can be a resource to help lend their weight to either funding or advocating for something or lending their support. So that was one thought.
And I think Suzanne does that. Suzanne's the sustainability officer. And I believe, doesn't she deal with county and coordinate some of those programs? Suzanne, she's the sustainability officer for the township. So I thought she met with.
I know she's met with the county. I'm not sure that she's coordinating everything, but I know she's met with them.
Okay.
Well, that's a great idea. Thank you, Cindy.
Then one of the speakers was Paul Schaefer, EAC co-chair for Lower Gwinnett in Montgomery County. And he talked about stream crossing signage to improve watershed awareness. And where he really caught my attention was when he said, when a township is trying to pass MS4 funding, and trying to get residents on board with paying more for watershed, MS4 improvements, that this is a very inexpensive way of getting people's attention, because the average person does not know what streams are in town. They do not know where they are, what their names are. And by the simple act of putting a sign, they put 15 signs on the stream crossings in town, and just had the name of the stream. That you're crossing Hunter's Run, you're crossing, Plum Creek.
Plus,
That,
they mentioned what it dumps into, where
Yeah.
it goes.
yeah, and then, the fact that, so when they did these signs, they also had like a public education to go with it to help people realize that their water all goes to the Wissahickon.
So are
because
these street signs or just like at the,
It's a metal sign that cost about $150 a piece,
right?
and it's kind of like the Birdtown sign. It's
Oh,
something
okay.
metal. And you just like put it underneath a stop sign or
Oh,
underneath
okay.
another sign, and you put
Okay.
it on a metal pole, and it's just right out on the road. And
Right
if,
before you
if-
get to the bridge
the
or whatever
stream,
it
yeah.
is.
and if you notice these when you're driving on a highway or you're on the turnpike, you'll say you're entering Mississippi River watershed.
Yes.
And it's just a localized version of that to just,
We
Again,
teach respect of water.
like right out here, people probably have no idea they're driving over a stream there.
Yeah.
And that there's a stream underneath the
Right.
basketball
Right.
court. So I thought that was a great idea, and he sent me his PowerPoint, which is about 10 slides. And he said he would be willing to come help present the concept to the Board of Supervisors, and given what the $8.5 million figure that was brought up at the Board of Supervisors meeting Monday, I thought this cost to do something, this would be like a drop in the bucket.
So how much are we talking? Because could this be something the EAC could look into for next year, or for funding for 2025? Greer Park is some park, that will be addressed eventually in the future. And because Fox's Run goes right into Darby Creek, would you're saying you want it on the side street, or do you want it on the public streets? Where do you want the signs? Because that would be an application for Greer Park that you might want to consider.
Right, Greer Park.
Because Fox's Run goes right into.
It would be along any road.
Okay, just
So
the
that
road.
when you're driving, your drivers would see the sign
Okay.
and it would say Hunter's Run, Plum Creek. So you would have something as you were coming up Bishop
Okay.
Hollow Road, where the stream goes underneath. You'd have something when you're coming down Campus Boulevard and the stream leaves, you're coming off Westchester Pike and you're going over the stream. There might be a sign right there that there's a stream right underneath you. It's much easier to understand when you see the
It actually
publication.
sounds great.
Goes into, I
Yeah,
thought that was
okay.
very interesting.
Yeah.
That.
And
right.
some of them said that and some of them didn't, but I thought that was a great program. Steve, to get back to the thing about the Springfield Township saving on their energy bills, the reason I was asking about that is I've heard this speaker mentioned it and other speakers have mentioned that when you build a new building and they put in all these energy efficient features, a lot of people don't realize that after you build the building, and maybe this has been done, you have to commission it. And by commissioning it, you bring in engineers and they look at everything that's just been built to make sure that it's functioning the way it's supposed to be built. And I've heard they do this like for LEED certified buildings. It's not enough to say, oh, we were built to LEED standards. You have to have the new building commissioned. I don't know if the engineers talked about that.
So actually, we've been actually going back and having we were told that certain things were done when we initially connected and did everything, particularly with the geothermal side. We've gone back now and brought in the company that designed and did it with a different section of their company that does that evaluation. And we this year have spent a fair amount of resources on making sure that what was done is functioning as it's supposed to.
Yeah.
They've made a ton of adjustments this year and to make sure that it's actually working in all the areas, and have actually made some recommendations for going beyond just
Great.
that
Okay.
area.
Good.
we are working specifically in the area, a couple of our areas of lighting is not working like they're supposed to, and so we're having them come back in and look at those as well.
Great, okay, that's wonderful to hear. West Vincent Township has shared about a Healthy Yards program they have. And I think this is something that would be great to get going here. There's a lot of existing programs, whether it's, bird-friendly yards or watershed-friendly yards. And the thing that struck me there was they say they always use the language, it's a voluntary, educational, and inspirational initiative. And it seemed to me that's kind of what we're doing with the Sustainable Newtown Square. It's voluntary, it's educational, and it's inspirational.
That's awesome.
We had a quick HOA roundtable where a number of people who live in HOAs talked about relevant issues there, and I still think that's kind of an untapped market section, a very growing section of the community. There was the very in-depth session on local action to improve water quality. And there was a very impressive speaker from Stroud Water Research, where he talked about a lot of the research that Stroud has been doing on the different pollutants that still are found in our streams. And a catchphrase he used there that I liked was, we want our water to be swimmable, drinkable, fishable. And I thought that was just language that we don't often say. We talk about clean water or stormwater management, but this makes it very tangible to me. Swimmable, drinkable, fishable. Great. And there was the last speaker talked about his the Upper Merion Plastic Pollution Reduction Ordinance. I know we tried that here and not get traction. He explained how Upper Merion did it, which includes King of Prussia. They are a second-class township. He said they had unanimous support from their Board of Supervisors. They had unanimous support from the King of Prussia Business Improvement District, King of Prussia Mall. Nobody objected. It was just done. So, and he went into more detail about how they did it. They did a very thorough process. They reached out.
What is their ordinance? Is it an ordinance or is it voluntary? What is their program like?
He said they do not use the word ban.
Okay.
But it's like they don't give out plastic bags.
Oh.
I didn't focus on the specifics of the ordinance as much as the process
Okay.
by which he did it and the fact that they had no resistance.
Awesome. All right. Well,
May I just add with plastic pollution, this is a fact that sticks in my mind. Each of us every week consumes about a credit card worth of plastic.
Microplastics.
Microplastics in what we drink, eat, and breathe.
It's
One credit
it's
card
really
a week.
yes.
this much plastic enters our body
Every week.
from
And
microplastics.
by 2050, birds will be consuming plastic, all of them, all of the birds, the water birds. will
Which is
be.
part of the reason I think this plastic mesh is just part of it. Plastics everywhere. I was walking through down Stony Brook Boulevard, through a little area that they landscape back in there. And there's the plastic mesh sticking up underneath the mulch.
All right, we're going to get to that. Let's get on to, thank you for that, but we have item 8.3, the update discussion, and possible action on Sustainable Newtown Square Green Business Coalition. Program is going well. Jane was not able, as you know, not able to attend tonight. So we're going to continue on that, and him and I actually are making some progress on that and making sure we're moving forward on that. Item 8.4. Now this will be, we've already briefly discussed that this is update on possible action on the township's weed ordinance to help residents with lawn conservations, meadows, naturalized lawn, and lawn alternatives. With Rich working on the wetlands thing, do you have any tentative date of when he will be? Do you think? Okay, okay,
I know he's got, your committee has these two in front of him. The shade tree, he's still working with
Yes.
them. And he's also working with something with the Historic Commission in addition to what we've been giving him.
and
So,
for other legal issues.
yeah,
within the
so
township.
I don't even wager.
It would
guess
be
at
great
this
if we could get movement back on the ordinance for the riparian buffer and the wetlands and the floodplains that was added
Not
to as a,
floodplain, just riparian buffer.
well, every floodplains was, there was a piece of that was, which was Andy's. There was a, that's why the floodplains came in. Remember too, Andy contributed some information, so the information that ordinance that Andy had wanted, plus what we had requested, plus with the supervisor is going to be come out. So if we can get that in December, that would be a Christmas bonus. And if not, tell Andy,
would-
tell Rich that, the Grinch might be coming after him and there will be coal in his stocking. Okay, but we definitely need.
I think that'll scare him.
Tell him I'll be coming after him. That'll be worse than the Grinch, but definitely we need one of those ordinances for our Christmas agendas. Or Passover or Hanukkah or whatever, you know what I mean? Kwanzaa, whatever gift you want to give it to us, it please be in December. Please. And then we definitely want movement on the updated lawn, especially before we get into the spring. We would love that to be targeted by no later than January. Janet, that's not a good idea. Get one by
Good.
December, one by January.
Spring.
If not,
Before.
Steve, can you give me Rich's home address and phone number? I will visit him. Okay, now I just made a threat against some public officials, so I have to be careful here. Okay.
I'll be very clear. I will not give out
I
the
know.
home address or phone.
I was joking. Okay, that was a joke. Okay. Item 8.5, but I definitely, on item 8.4, we need something by January for that. Item 8.5, discussion and possible action on recommending concerns of use of plastic mesh used in turf, straw matting, and land developers. Now we previously had, and we're lucky to have in the audience today, DJ, who had done a presentation back in August, and we have that noted up. If you could bring that up, Tim. And so I think where we're looking at is Tim's updated draft. We received that. I think what we have to discuss is, like, what is the pathway forward on this issue? You know, what do we envision? What would be something we would discuss with the supervisors? Is there a mechanism that we can have within the existing ordinances, or does it have to be addressed? Is this just a local issue? And I wanted to hear your thoughts on it, because my concern is this: we want to make sure this is something that, from what I understand from the supervisors, and this is just our general approach, they don't just like to have ordinances for the sake of ordinances if they can't enforce them. And they also are very cautious about having ordinances because it takes up time from our codes, from our solicitors, from all of our resources to have codes that aren't enforceable or something that they can actually address. They also want to know what the scope of the problem is, how many properties are impacted.
You should be taking notes. No, because this is what we're gonna ask you to put together. And this is what you would need to take to the board.
Because we
So-
really want to look at what is the scope of the problem, who's impacted by this, how many residents are impacted, what are the applications for this? Because we also have to go back to plastic matting. What is this used for? This was a product designed to help erosion control. So the intention of it was good. And as with any good intention, sometimes things go awry. So what would be the alternatives that a resident can use? And what could we do is, in just like our suggestions, can we make suggestions for now, or is there a pathway forward? Is this something that needs to be looked at from a regional perspective, a township perspective? Can we coordinate with other agencies, let's say transition towns or reconserved? So I really wanted to get your thoughts, because we as the EAC are just discussing this item and we have no authority to make any type of ordinance. And we really want to see how do we envision this thing? And Cindy, what are your thoughts on this? How do you see this working?
I think it's a horrible problem. We had this used at Hunter's Run several years ago. It was a mess. I walked back in this very large area where they had spread this matting down. It had gotten all rolled up. It was ripping apart. It captures birds, it kills them. DJ's done a lot of research. He has all the research there. As I said, I've seen it down at Stony Brook. He's seen it all over Lissitor. I think this is not a hard thing to resolve. There are jute and natural coconut fiber alternatives. To me, it would be a simple thing to put in the whatever relevant part of the code where they talk about, engineering things, and then when
Such as the pipe, like they, right now is the.
yeah,
example of
they
the pipe.
say you have to use
That was
HDPE
right.
pipe, blah, 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 and you have to use, they specify when things are done, what materials have to be used. In the landscape plan, why couldn't it just specify that you will not use this plastic-based material? All kinds of other materials are specified, and I don't think it's a big rewrite. I think it's just, you mentioned this product.
Added.
Yeah, just incorporate it into the existing process.
So the question is, we have to identify how
I-
much of an issue this is.
I
and
think
get the
I think
input.
there's two questions that I would have that I
Yeah.
want you to focus on if you're thinking about presenting this to the board. One is, I mean, obviously the easy one is the land development side in
Right,
regards to that's,
right.
it's a much more standard type of approach. What I don't know is how, you use the example of Hunter's Run. Hunter's Run had already been established.
Right.
And so if you're wanting to do that, I'm not sure where that fits in the code. And that's the one thing that I just have to think about. And we have to think about is how does that fit in the code?
I think the land development is the easier one.
That's
because-
what I was
right,
saying, like the land development part.
Right.
I think is an easier part. I think that having it, I mean, if you're saying you want to go as far and ban it in like the township altogether, I don't know where that fits.
Right.
But I'm not saying we can't. I'm just saying that's probably a little bit more of a lift
Yes.
in understanding how it fits, because one is we have a very controlled, we have engineers who are out there, it's easy to
Right.
do. Where the other is a little bit more difficult because you
An
have a
individual
landscaper
resident
come
goes
in
home
and do
yeah,
something.
You're not
No,
gonna go
and,
after.
and I understand that, but it's a starting point.
No, and I
Start-
agree, I'm
do
not,
what you can, and you.
Right.
all I'm saying is if we want to make it simple, the land development side is very simple.
Right.
I say very simple, relatively. The one that I'm more concerned about is how do we make it happen in the other.
And for the supervisors, remember too, we always have to get their input on it.
Yes.
They're very cautious about anything that they feel like, if it's just an ordinance without any teeth or any way to enforce it. And also they have to be very careful of throwing things on codes because of enforceability. So like you said, if it's just in land development, it's easier to manage than if it is across the code. So it's something that we have decided.
I'm sorry, can we just have it banned from the land development side and across the entire
And
Well,
start
we-
there.
township?
we
And
could-
then.
So what we're looking to do is
Can you not-
gather the information, put together
when
a
you take
summary.
it out of the land development side, you knock out a huge chunk of it, even if somebody on a smaller basis, like a landscaper or somebody or an individual homeowner is using it for something. That's not as, encompassing as an actual land development company or something.
So we need some education here. First, we need to start with that, I
Yes.
think, right? And I think perhaps DJ's point is to start with the educational part of it, if I'm,
Well, educate who?
we just need to educate residents or of the
Well, it's
township on.
Yeah, but it's not residents that are doing it. It's commercial landscapers.
But what we
And
can
it's
do,
builders and developers. That's
Okay.
who you have
So-
to regulate.
we can work through the process right now. And I understand, Cindy, you're gonna be working with DJ, if you want to get to go just to the speaker, just so we can identify you and give your name and address
And
just
I
turn
have
on
a
the green
I have
button.
a 7 o'clock meeting.
Okay, that's why I was trying to keep everyone on task.
Hello, everybody. DJ Varner, 203 Chard Avenue, Newtown Square.
Okay, DJ, so I know you brought this issue to us in August and we're really interested in learning more about it. But as you know, speaking with Cindy and we want to kind of really gather the information to make a presentation before the supervisors to consider this and really to see if this is something that we would have an application for. And like everyone has mentioned, it seems like land development is the easier way. But again, all we can do is gather information, make them aware of the scope of the problem and see what is our pathway forward in this important issue. And like we're doing now with that other property, the EAC asking for these things and making them recommendations when we're doing will be a start. So if you can gather that information and get it off, we can work together on bringing this issue forward.
Well, if I can put a finer point on that, on behalf of DJ and me, who are going to work on this. What are we looking for to put in front of the EAC and then move on to the Board of Supervisors as a concept? Are we looking for a one-page Word document? Are we looking for 3 or 4 slides? What would be the best way for us to summarize this, hitting all the points Sheila mentioned? Logistically, what's the way forward?
Well, I think that, a one-page summary sheet is always helpful, right? I mean, I think that's
Yes.
good. I wouldn't necessarily want to do this as
Exactly.
a presentation.
No, that's why I'm saying.
In the meeting. Would you unlock the doors over here, please? So if I was going to present to the board, I would have a one-page summary sheet that you would hand out to them. That's gave them I would spell out what the issue was. I would tell them what you would be clear. What are we asking? What are the issues? And what the impact is, how it impacts the environment. And then I would put together a very short 2 or 3 slide presentation of what you actually want to talk about as you're presenting it to them, and do that. But I would have two different. I wouldn't try to present with a one-page sheet on the thing that you're asking them to read or people to read. I would have that be something that the board can read,
In their
get
packet.
it in their packet ahead of time.
Okay.
And then I would have the presentation. And we'll attach the sheet, the one pager as well, but what your presentation would be what I would see as being on the line. Or, being the piece that would be brought up.
Perfect. All right, so
So
you
one
can work-
page, I'm sorry, one page summary and like a short PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah, I would think it would be a short PowerPoint presentation that, you might have like 5 or 6 bullet points that you're trying to cover that you want to talk about. Keep it, I always tell people try to keep a presentation roughly to 5 minutes, except for my budget presentation that went on for 35 minutes. But you know what I'm saying? As a
Yeah.
whole, we try to keep them
Yeah,
pretty
maybe
short.
we
and
can
direct.
talk with you on the side, because I've got like 8 minutes
yeah.
before we're ready to tap out here.
Thank
All right.
you- Thank you for taking this issue
Yeah.
up. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Awesome.
This is just the start here.
I move that DJ and I put together documents, a one-page summary, 3-page PowerPoint, bring it to the board, present it to the EAC at our December meeting for their review. And then if we're on board with it, if the EAC is on board with it, that could move on to the Board of Supervisors.
Right. Motion was made by Cindy Mehallow to move forward on discussing and exploring options for seeing how plastic mesh can be limited or eliminated in our township. And the motion was seconded by
Janet Grant.
Jonica Bennis. All right, all in favor, say aye. Awesome, perfect. All right, item number 8.6. This is excellent news. With our library program, what we have done is work with the township library to encourage residents to take the Sustainable Newtown Square pledge, and we're providing them with a free reusable bag. We encourage everyone, get to the library, get your photo taken, really support sustainability. We have 5 simple, easy steps for you to do, and it's really awesome. All right, and that's it. Item number 9, public comment. DJ, you've already given anyone else? All right, awesome. One note, I wanted to let you know, Dane Shoemaker, who has been a phenomenal member of our EAC, has been inundated with work, life, busy and everything, and has to kind of do a step back and step off the board. He's going to still support us in all of our efforts, and but won't be able really to make the meetings, but he will be still working with us. I would love it for anyone that has EAC members or members who are potentially interested, for us to keep them in mind so that they could submit the necessary forms to the township. And again, the supervisors would making that determination. Anything else, Janet?
No, nothing. else.
Cindy? Joe? Perfect. We are adjourned.
You do that?
I have a whole bunch.
There you go.